What you are about to see is a remote viewing session that was conducted totally blind by the remote viewer. The viewer knew nothing about the target or the nature of the project when doing the session. But I will now tell you what the target is so that you can follow along when the remote viewer is describing the session data. Now, the sessions for this target were all completed by FARSIGHT remote viewers in July 2024. The target for this project is the Israeli war with Hezbollah and its aftermath. In June 2024, it looked like a war with Hezbollah was inevitable, so this project was designed to see what such a war would look like. The target has a number of focuses. The first focus is the most advanced weaponry that Israel will use in its upcoming war with Hezbollah, as the weaponry is actually used in combat. Now, the second focus is the most advanced weaponry that Israel possesses of any type. So the first two focuses involve the types of weapons that might be used in such a war. Now, the remainder of the focuses deal with the actual war itself with respect to the use of those weapons. Focus 3 is the scene that would best describe the final outcome of the Israeli war against Hezbollah. Now, Focus 4 is the scene in Israel that would best describe the final outcome of the Israeli war against Hezbollah. And Focus 5 is the scene in Lebanon that would best describe the final outcome of the Israeli war against Hezbollah. So with these focuses, we are hoping to see what the result of the war will be like in various places, such as in Israel, in Lebanon, and possibly elsewhere. Now, I want to make something very clear. Remote viewing data must be considered speculative until they are verified with respect to solid facts on the ground. So, the data that you are about to see can be interpreted one way, but they may turn out to be something else when all is said and done. The best we can do is to say that the remote viewing data are one viewer's attempt to describe what is perceived, all under blind conditions. So, these data which you are about to see cannot be interpreted at the current time as saying that Israel will definitely resort to using, say, nuclear weapons. Indeed, very large conventional weapons can also cause results that look quite similar to nuclear weapons. Such large conventional weapons were in fact used by the United States during the Vietnam War, which resulted in huge craters across much of Vietnam that are now lakes which are often used for fish farming today. A remote viewer might have difficulty differentiating a large conventional weapon from a nuclear weapon during a remote viewing session, since both would be destructive over a large area. And importantly, it could be that we are wrong about everything. Perhaps the war will not happen, or perhaps it may be short-lived. Perhaps diplomacy will win the day and disaster will be averted. The only thing we are saying is that these are the perceptions that our remote viewers perceived when being tasked with the target of the upcoming war between Israel and Hezbollah. All remote viewers at FARSIGHT are very highly trained in the use of our remote viewing procedures, so the data could be important. Now let's see what one of our remote viewers perceived for this target. All right, Kahmia, so here we are with deep news. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to go through your session that you've done for this and perhaps pick up some new stuff while you're going through it. And then after you do that, we'll tell you the target, reveal what the target is. But just for the audience's sake, you do not know anything about what the nature of the target or the project is.
Nope.
So you're doing this totally blind, right?
Yes.
All right. So why don't you start? And I'm looking at your paper session now. So I'm sort of looking at your first flash sketch, and why don't you just start with that and then tell us what you found?
Yeah, so I'm on a base surface here. It's pretty level topography. There's a lot of structures. Feels like a busy kind of area. A lot of structures, a lot of subjects. There's some stuff in the sky. I see like lines in the sky and like dark cloud dynamics above the surface structures here. And that's kind of just what I'm picking up at this moment. Very loud.
Okay, so it's an urban type of environment with lots of structures and so on. Well, keep on going. Why don't you start with now Focus 1. What did you find in Focus 1?
Here I see that there's subjects here, but there seems like one main subject. It's a male subject. This subject is surrounded by a lot of loud sounds, voices, shouting, man-made sounds, and subjects that feel very passionate, maybe a little angry, but they definitely feel like, they feel it. There's some sense of panic as well, kind of just like a lot going on, a lot of activity by the subjects. There's also, feels like there's like a roller coaster of emotions, so it definitely feels like they're heightened, and then people kind of seem to calm down, and then subjects get heightened in their emotions again, and then calm back down, so it just feels kind of a little bit all over the place. But yeah, there's a lot of structures around the subject as well. Feels like they're feels like they're in an urban area. And then I drew a bunch of subjects over here that kind of have their arms up, and they're like, ah.
You also have something in the center, like a lot of heat, dark and light energy.
Yeah, and they
What's
seem to be
going on there?
surrounded by some sort of heat. I don't really know if it's like fire, but it definitely feels very hot, and I can kind of see waves of stuff around the subjects.
Okay. Well, what happens on your next page, your flash sketch 2?
So here,
Oh, this is actually this is focus 2, is
this
that
is
right?
focus 1, and this is still focus 1.
Oh, this is still focus 1. Okay.
Yeah. So I just see a lot of subjects again. This dark heat. It's like dark cloud dynamics, energetics, something like that. But it's very hot here too. And then I see some sort of like light within the darkness. It's like dark, but there's a specific light in one place as well. And then all of that is surrounded by surface structures and subjects.
So this light stuff seems to be rather major something or other inside that urban area. Okay, well, let's go on to the next one. Your flash sketch 3. What's going on there?
So here I see, again, all these surface structures, an urban area, and a lot of like smoky, dark areas that seem to be very hot. There's a main subject that I'm kind of standing behind, so I can see like the back of them, and then in front of them I see like a huge crowd of subjects here, and it just feels like it's a little chaotic, and the main subject that I'm behind is kind of watching it all happen. They seem to have even like a little fence or guard, something like separates them from the other group of subjects.
Okay, what about the next page where you're focused on this subject with a big nose?
Subject's got a big nose and like a little bit of hair on their head. It's a male subject. Again, I just see the subject kind of surrounded by like darkness, and they've got their hands up, and it looks like they're kind of passionately talking or passionately moving their body around. They've got these thick clothes on, and it feels like they're just kind of standing still, even though their voices are like shouting, and they're like not yelling at people, but yelling in a direction of people. It doesn't feel like they're yelling. Again, it doesn't feel like they're yelling at the subjects. It feels like they're just maybe not motivating them either. It feels weird. They're definitely interacting with the subjects, and they feel very passionate while they do it.
Okay, what about the next one where you have dealing some type of focus on technology?
So I'm looking at some sort of technology. It feels complex, and like it's one of its kind. So like nothing else in the world that exists. It is just like that one. I see a lot of dark colors, blacks and grays, and it feels like it pulls energy from its surroundings. So it's like kind of sucking stuff up from like around and using that as the energy that it outputs as well. And it feels like it operates without being attached to something else. So it definitely feels like it's just like this standalone object here. It's smooth, man-made materials. It's hard. And then something about it just makes my stomach feel like heavy. Like it feels like not right. You know what I mean? Like if something feels bad and you get that pit in your stomach feeling, that's kind of what I was sensing, and still sense when I kind of tap into that. It radiates some sort of heat, and it feels like it affects like other technologies like more than like the subjects themselves. So it's interacting with like other man-made objects around it. But yeah, it's on the base surface, and it radiates into like the whole surrounding area, like on the base surface, up above the base surface. So yeah.
That's energy. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, so why don't we, well, I'll make some comments about that later. Why don't you move on to what you have it written down here as your target event for Focus 1.
So here it feels very heavy. I feel like there's a lot of activity by the subjects here. There's also activity by objects. It feels very scattered, but all feels focused on the same thing. So even though it's kind of happening all over the place, it's all intertwined. It's all connected. It feels like there's these subjects versus subjects thing, kind of like arguments or like physical altercations between the subjects. I have something that seems to be like energy floating around the subjects and objects floating around subjects. It just feels like there's like objects and things in the air from subject to subject to subject. It feels very like just chaotic here in general. The event feels like it's fueled by anger. So there's a lot of passionate subjects here. They feel upset and they have no issue showing how they feel. Being fueled by the subjects, but emotionally, no. Yeah. So it feels barbaric. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of thoughts happening. It just feels like straight activity. Nobody's thinking anything through. Everyone's just doing. And it just makes me feel like a little disgusted. Like it's like I said, barbaric. It doesn't feel to the level where I think subjects should be and stuff like that. It just feels very low energy. Low energy. So even though there's like many subjects here, it does feel like there's a main subject that's orchestrating or leading. So it feels like there's like a main subject that's kind of like, you know, not in charge, but the other subjects are kind of all looking to when they're doing this.
Some leader of some type. Okay, what do you have on this next page? That's a very dramatic sketch.
This next page is a lot of, I feel like it's a lot of energetics, it's a lot of heat, a lot of cloud dynamics, a lot of barbaric energy again, like I said, angry subjects, objects in the air, objects on the ground, subjects on the ground, objects flying from subject to subject, and then just a very dark, cloudy area. It just feels like the epitome of destruction.
We'll of course show this so that people will see it when you're talking. Okay, move on to Focus 2 now. What happened with Focus 2? What do you get there?
Focus 2, I'm on the base surface. There's male subjects here, many surface structures, subjects inside structures. It feels quiet, but there's like voices and talking still. There's subjects interacting with some sort of object as well. These subjects are covered from head to toe. They all are similar, like looking in their dress code. That's kind of what I called it. It feels like dress code. Dark clothing. They're not wearing identical outfits, but they do look very similar in a sense. Structured clothing, but not like thick clothing. It definitely feels like it just fits everybody the way it's supposed to. And then there's one subject that seems to be accompanied / watched / observed.
Okay, well, you then went on to what you write down here is technology again. So what'd you get there?
So here I feel like technology is being transported. I'm on the base surface, and then I'm distant from the base surface, and I'm back on the base surface. So it must have came from somewhere else, and brought here or moves from place to place. Feels like this hard man-made and smooth object. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily turned on, but it does feel like it's here, of course. And then just it feels the height of an average subject. It's a pretty big piece of technology, but it can still be picked up and carried. So I wouldn't say it's like something that has to be, again, planted somewhere. It can't be just picked up and moved. I also wrote that this feels like it's in the process of being created, like it's not completely finished yet. As it's moving from place to place, there's subjects surrounding this object and interacting with the technology. And something about it like pushes energy into subjects or into something. It just feels like it outputs energy, and it can actually like affect the things around it. And then I can just say it just makes my head hurt, and it causes people to, or me, some sort of confusion is happening. Like it just messes with your brain, I guess.
Okay, so you then move on to a location for scene 1. That's what you labeled here. This is for focus 3, though. Okay, so what do you get for focus 3?
So here, I'm on the base surface structures. I'm inside a structure. There's subjects here, very few subjects, though. It feels like a focus gathering. These subjects are here, like, because they are qualified. You know what I mean? It's not just a bunch of random people. Specifically picked subjects. There's a heavy cloud of energy, like there's weight like on this area. It feels like some sort of weight over here. There is a main structure where all this activity seems to be happening like directly around, even though it may be like, I can't really sense if it's inside the structure or outside, but like this structure and the immediate area around it is being affected. There is some sort of activity by an object more than subjects at this time. And then I see something that looks like a cloud or like basically like a cloud. But then there's these lines under it. To me, it feels like something's radiating up and creating this big kind of cloud over something.
Okay, so let's then go to your before and after picture, which is in the next one, which gives us an idea of what that cloud was doing, I guess.
So before, there's a lot of structures. There seems to be like a city, urban area. And then afterwards, there seems to be less structures and this dark, cloudy stuff kind of covering them. I can't see all the structures anymore.
Structures are gone. Okay, now let's move on to the location for focus 4. Where did you get that?
So here, I'm on the base surface. There's man-made land. I'm outside of a structure. There's many subjects here, grays, greens, man-made sounds, cloud dynamics, very loud. I see a main structure that's surrounded by something, like just some sort of dark wave thing.
Yeah.
It looks like a ghost town. Like, it looks like a ghost town here, even though there's subjects and stuff happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have both of these things that you did for focus 4, scene 1 and scene 2. So there are 2 different scenes for the same focus. That's giving us looks worse than before.
Yeah, like it just looks like a ghost town. It looks like Mad Max vibes.
Ghost town, yeah. Okay. All right, then let's go to your next sketch. Wow.
My next sketch is a main structure again. I just see like a main structure again, surrounded by the smoke, dark thing, shadows. But then everything around it is literally like gone. Like, I don't know how to describe it other than it looks like it's just like wiped off the face of the earth, and then it left behind this dark, charcoal looking base surface and smoke.
All right, then you went on to the last page of your session, which is focus 5. What do you see there?
Here I see, well, first I deducted a post-war town. So it looks like, again, like there's something crazy has happened. There's pieces of structures. There's dark areas on the ground, holes like on the ground, scuffed up marks on the ground. It doesn't feel like there's many, if any, subjects here. It's quiet. I wrote that it also feels like this area feels like forgotten and empty in a sense. A lot of natural sounds. There's not really any activity by subjects or objects. Energetically, this feels like the aftermath of something. Like you can still sense the chaos even though there's nothing here anymore. You know what I mean?
Okay, and you had the word abandoned also for...
I wrote abandoned?
Yeah. All right, well, that's pretty intense session. Are you ready to hear what the target is?
I sure am.
Okay, this is then the target reveal for this. It's events in the news are actually happening more quickly than when we did. But a few weeks ago, it looked like there was going to be a uptick in the Israeli conflicts with Hezbollah, which is the Islamic military group in southern Lebanon. So it looked like the war in Israel was going to extend north, not just with Gaza. And so this project is simply the Israeli war with Hezbollah and its aftermath. So we were open to anything. Was it just continuation of some rockets going back and forth? Or was there going to be something different? Was it going to end? Or was it going to be worse? And now, as of right now, we're recording this on the 1st of August, it looks like there's going to be a huge major war that's going to involve Iran and Hezbollah, northern Lebanon. It looks like it's going to be an all-out war. It's going to start any day. I'm hoping we can publish these things either before it starts or after it, just immediately after it starts. But it's the Israeli war with Hezbollah. Now let me go through some of the focuses so you can see. Focus 1, now you just knew Focus 1. That was the most advanced weaponry that Israel will use in its upcoming war with Hezbollah, as the weaponry is actually used in combat. And so you have very interesting stuff. You have some very high-tech stuff. And I couldn't quite get whether you're talking about like major explosive stuff, like maybe even nuclear, or they have conventional bombs that can level entire city blocks. We used those in the Vietnam War. And the Vietnam War resulted in Vietnam turning into the land of 1,000 lakes. They have so many lakes in Vietnam because of these huge bombs that created craters, and now they have fish industries coming out of these lakes. So they have bombs that are, really huge. I couldn't figure out if it was that or nuclear.
I can, now that you say it, it's like, I couldn't really tell either. It was just like a bunch of dark heat areas. I did draw this little circle, like big circle that was emitting light.
Yeah.
So it could have been something like that, nuclear.
I was also wondering if it might be, because some of your high-tech stuff seemed to suggest that it was affecting machinery. So I was wondering if it might be EMP weapons. That's an electromagnetic pulse that knocks out all electronics.
Shoot, it could be a mix of both.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's high-tech. This is not like just guns with bullets.
Oh, yeah,
This is
it definitely didn't feel like just guns.
Yeah, well, that was Focus 1, and the Focus 2 was the most advanced weaponry that Israel possesses of any type, and there you found you clearly found that they had some technology that was really very high-end, radiated heat, and you had trouble sort of figuring out exactly what it was, but you could clearly see it was very high-tech. And then Focus 3 was the scene that would best describe the final outcome of the Israeli war with Hezbollah. And there you clearly had, this is like, for example, you saw that cloud with the focus lines come radiating. The final outcome was huge explosions. A lot of energy, heavy cloud of energy, they're going to bomb the heck out of him. So this looks like it's going to be a major day. And then you had the before and after picture, where before you had the cities, and I'm assuming that city in Lebanon, and in the after picture it's leveled. So it looks like they're going to level the city. That's what it looks like. That was for Focus that was for that focus, which is best describe the outcome of the Israeli war. And then you had scene 1 and scene 2, and scene 2 had a similar type of stuff. It looks worse than before. And now this target was designed at a time that we didn't know what was going to happen. I thought maybe it would just be some more rockets going off, between each side, just throwing rockets at each other. But it seems now that your remote viewing session clearly picked up looks like now from the news what's going to happen, which is a major war. And the final thing was a focus 5, and your focus 5, basically you just had, that was the scene that would best describe the final outcome of the Israeli war against Hezbollah. That was another scene. So you had scene 1, 2, and 3 of that war, and the final outcome is just destruction. It's huge levels of destruction, abandonment. So it looks like what we're seeing in the news is going to happen. That's why I hope we can get these sessions out as quick as possible, because this war is not going to be a minor war, according to your data. And I have to admit, we just went through Yeme's data yesterday, and it's matching yours completely. Completely. And it's this is going to be a major war, and it's going to be very weird because it's involving a lot of weapons from Iran. So that means in the old days Israel outgunned all of its opponents, so it could finish off wars in like 7 days, 10 days, and it would all be done. This time it looks like it's going to be, in order to make it a quick war, they're going to have to really escalate the weaponry and the level of conflict. Anyway, that's what your data seems to suggest. Hey, let me shut up and say, do you have any thoughts about this? Have you been following the news on this regard?
Nope, I don't follow the news. But this is unfortunate. That's all I can say. It's unfortunate. It does make me sad that, like, just us as people are still going to war. But
yeah,
not that I'm tired of remote viewing wars, but it's like, it feels like another one.
But we didn't know this was going to be a major war. We just thought, when the project was started, I didn't know.
I didn't know either.
Yeah, but
I thought I was remote viewing something from the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something that's actually currently about to happen, or.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it feels like what I wrote is exactly how I felt and exactly what I saw. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate is how I feel.
Well, I still haven't seen the results yet. I have seen the results from Aziz, and his results are similar. So, but I haven't seen the results yet from Intisan and Shantae. So that would be interesting to see how we should have those in a day or two. Actually, Shantae is later on today, and I think Intisam is tomorrow, so we'll know. Okay. I can only say that your work, Kahmia, is extraordinary, and I thank you for doing it, and we move on to the next one.